Easter is just around the corner, and I think it's high time we explore what this holiday is really all about. For many of us, Easter means one thing: chocolate bunnies, colorful eggs, and a whole lot of springtime fun. But is that really what Easter is all about? Today, we'll take a careful look at Easter's origins, its customs, and what Scripture actually says about remembering Jesus' resurrection. Many people assume Easter has always been purely Christian, but the reality is more complex. Its roots stretch across centuries, combining elements of ancient traditions, early church practices, and later cultural customs. Understanding this helps clarify which aspects of Easter are biblically grounded and which are cultural adaptations. What is it really? Before we even get to Easter Sunday, there's a day that many people around the world observe with deep reflection: Good Friday. It's remembered as the day Jesus was crucified. Churches grow quiet, people dress in darker colors, and services often focus on the suffering and death of Christ. But one question has caused many to pause and think. Why is it called Good Friday if it marks such a painful event? Historically, the term good is believed to mean holy or set apart. Over time, this day became one of the most important moments in the Christian calendar, observed with prayer, fasting, and remembrance. Records show that by around the 4th century, Christians were already observing a special day to reflect on the crucifixion. As the early church began to organize its calendar, Good Friday became a central point of reflection leading into Easter. Today, millions participate in Good Friday services across the world. Some fast, some remain silent. Others gather for long church services focused on the cross. But as we look at this practice more closely, an important question begins to form. How did this specific day become so widely observed, and how does it connect to what was practiced in the earliest days of Christianity? Lent, fasting, and preparation. Leading up to Good Friday, many Christians observe a period known as Lent, a 40-day season of fasting, prayer, and reflection. The number 40 carries deep meaning in Scripture. It appears in moments of testing, waiting, and preparation, like the 40 days Jesus spent fasting in the wilderness. Because of this, early Christians began to associate this number with spiritual discipline. By around the 4th century, Lent had become more structured, especially after the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, where church practices began to take more defined shape. During this time, believers would fast, give up certain foods, or focus more deeply on prayer. Over centuries, this developed into the Lent many recognize today. Even now, people around the world take part in this season, some giving up comforts, others focusing on spiritual growth. But this raises another quiet question. Where did this structured season come from, and how closely does it reflect what early believers actually practiced? Easter traditions we see today. Then comes Easter itself, and for many, it looks very different from Good Friday. Suddenly, the mood shifts. There are bright colors, celebrations, family gatherings, and traditions that feel more joyful and festive. Eggs are decorated in vibrant colors and given as gifts. These eggs have long been symbols of new life and renewal. In many cultures, they were used in spring celebrations, long before becoming associated with Easter. Then there's the Easter Bunny, a figure that became popular in Germany in the 1700s before spreading to other parts of the world. Rabbits, known for their rapid reproduction, were seen as symbols of fertility and life. Sunrise services are also widely practiced today, inspired by the idea of visiting the tomb early in the morning. This tradition began much later, around the 18th century, particularly among Christian communities in Europe and America. As these traditions grew, they became deeply tied to how Easter is celebrated today. But when you step back and look at all of this together, eggs, bunnies, fasting seasons, and special days, it leads to a deeper question. How did all these different elements come together under one celebration? Where did Easter come from? To understand that, we have to go further back, long before these traditions were combined. In ancient times, many cultures celebrated the arrival of spring. The end of winter marked new life, growth, and renewal. These celebrations were often tied to something very specific, the spring equinox, which usually falls around March 20th or 21st each year. This is the moment when day and night are nearly equal all over the world. For ancient societies, this wasn't just a date, it was a turning point. It signaled the start of a new season, a new cycle of life. Festivals, rituals, and celebrations were built around this exact time. When you look at the timing closely, it raises an interesting observation. Many Easter celebrations today also fall within this same seasonal window, often calculated based on the first full moon after the spring equinox. And that connection between timing, tradition, and meaning becomes an important part of understanding how Easter developed over time. What Scripture actually shows. After looking at the history, traditions, and how these practices developed, we can now turn to Scripture itself. The Bible clearly records the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus. According to the Gospels, Jesus rose on the third day after his death. This moment is central to the Christian faith. But just before his crucifixion, Jesus did something very important with his disciples. During a meal, he took bread, gave thanks, broke it, and said, "This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." Luke 22, verse 19. In the same way, he took the cup and said, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you." Luke 22, verse 20. This moment is often referred to as the Last Supper. It is one of the clearest instructions Jesus gave about how he wanted to be remembered, not through a seasonal festival, but through a simple act of remembrance. The Apostle Paul later repeats this in 1 Corinthians 11, verse 23 to 26, emphasizing the same message, that believers should eat the bread and drink the cup in remembrance of Jesus, proclaiming his death until he comes again. When we look closely, this stands out. Jesus didn't give detailed instructions about a yearly celebration filled with customs. Instead, he pointed to something deeply personal and meaningful, remembering his sacrifice. At the same time, the resurrection remains the foundation of faith. As recorded in the Gospels, the empty tomb is the turning point, the moment that confirms everything Jesus said and did. And when you place this alongside everything we've explored, history, traditions, and cultural practices, it brings a clearer picture into focus. Scripture centers on the death and resurrection of Jesus, and the remembrance he asked for is simple, direct, and intentional. Now that we've explored the origins of Good Friday, Lent, and how the timing of Easter connects to history, there's even more to uncover. Many of the traditions we see today, eggs, bunnies, sunrise services, have fascinating histories that most people don't realize. Some might surprise you, and others will make you see Easter in a completely different way. If you want to dive deeper and see 5 specific Easter traditions you probably didn't know aren't in the Bible, check out our next video where we break each one down with history, cultural context, and what Scripture really says about them. The big picture, what we now call Easter, is a combination of something deeply biblical and layers of history that developed over centuries. The resurrection of Jesus stands at the center, unchanged and clearly recorded. Around it, traditions formed, cultures influenced practices, and different expressions of remembrance emerged. Understanding this doesn't take away from the meaning. It simply helps separate what is rooted in Scripture from what developed over time. And once you see that clearly, the question is no longer just what is Easter, but what part of it truly matters most. If this made you think differently about Easter, you're not alone. There's more to explore, more to understand, and more questions worth asking. And that's exactly what this channel is about. What, where, and why.